Hey, have you ever felt like the deck was stacked against you? Like the whole world was against you and you didn't know how to overcome, how to beat the odds? I think we've all felt like that. Well, you got three choices. You could fight and lose, you could just roll over and give up, or you could figure out a way to overcome against the odds. If that's you, that's what you want to do. You want to learn to win, learn to overcome. I invite you to join me today as we unlock biblical wisdom for life on the topic of overcoming against the odds. Who doesn't love an underdog story? We all do. We love to see when the little guy just comes out on top when the odds are against him. And why? Because I think all of us at times in our life have been in situations, have felt like the whole world was against us, like the deck was stacked against us. And we're just inspired and encouraged by those stories of the people who overcame the odds. In the Bible, Gideon is one such man, one such underdog who overcomes tremendous odds and wins the fight, wins the battle. Now, of course, we can celebrate this, we can read this story and enjoy it and just be encouraged. Or we can actually take these stories of these underdogs and analyze them and see, okay, how did they do it? Not just celebrating that they did it, that they overcame, but looking into how they did it so that in our own lives, when we face odds that are against us, when we face insurmountable circumstances and obstacles, we're able to do the same, to overcome in the midst of adversity. So I invite you to join me as we continue reading the story of Gideon, how he takes his 300 men and overcomes a vast, huge enemy army. This week, we're reading in Judges chapter 7, verses 16 through 22. And it says, dividing his 300 men into 3 companies, he placed trumpets and empty jars in the hands of them all, with torches inside. Watch me, he told them, follow my lead. When I get to the edge of the camp, do exactly as I do. When I and all who are with me blow our trumpets, then from all around the camp, blow yours and shout for the Lord and for Gideon. Gideon and the 300 men with him reached the edge of the camp at the beginning of the middle watch, just after they changed the guard. They blew their trumpets and broke the jars that were in their hands. The 3 companies blew the trumpets and smashed the jars. Grasping the torches in their left hands and holding in their right hands the trumpets they were to blow, they shouted, "A sword for the Lord and for Gideon." While each man held his position around the camp, all the Midianites ran, crying out as they fled. When the 300 trumpets sounded, the Lord caused the men throughout the camp to turn on each other with their swords. The army fled to Beth Shittah toward Zerahah, as far as the border of Abel Meholah near Tabbath. Gideon takes these 300 men and in the middle of the night surrounds the enemy army. And just with a few simple actions, he doesn't fight, he doesn't battle, he doesn't go up against it in the middle of the day, he doesn't try to overcome in his own strength, but he uses some things that just seem crazy if you think about it. But I believe God is giving us, again, a process. God always gives us a process on how to overcome the odds. I love how it starts out. It says in verse 17, "Watch me," Gideon said. "Follow my lead. When I get to the edge of the camp, do exactly as I do." You know, we've all faced situations. What do you do when you get up in a situation you don't know how to handle? Gideon says, "Watch me." And we're all watching someone. Throughout our lives, we've all watched our parents or the people who cared for us, the people around us, the crowd that we surround ourselves with. We're watching someone. Paul wrote in the letter to the Corinthians, he said, "Imitate me as I imitate Christ." And I want to ask you, in your life, who are you imitating? This company that Gideon had with him, the 300 men, they were willing to imitate him. Who are you imitating? Are you looking to people who have gone down a path before you? Do you have mentors in your life? Do you have leaders that you can follow? People that inspire you, people that have been through what you've been through already. So often we feel like we're against the whole world, like there's no one on our side, but we need to find people to imitate. Find someone who's gone down your path. Whether you're changing jobs, whether you're in a new situation, whether you're in a new relationship, find someone who's older than you, who has experience in whatever it is you're going through, so that you can lean on them. You can glean some information from them and some encouragement. And when you have questions about how to get through what you're going through, you have someone to go to. Do you have someone like that in your life? Who are you imitating? Who are you following? Solomon, one of the wisest men who ever lived, said in his book in Ecclesiastes, he said, there's nothing new under the sun. No matter what situation you're facing, somebody's gone through something similar. Now, we all have our own details in life, but someone's gone through something that you're going through right now. They've gone through it, maybe not the exact thing, but you can find wisdom from other people in your life. And if you can't, you need to expand your circle of friends. You need to expand your relationships and go out there and look. Look, we have the beauty of the digital age, and you can find mentors online. You can find podcasts to listen to. You can find books to read about people who have done great things and overcome obstacles. Who are you imitating? And also in your life, we have to be aware, even as Gideon was leading this group of 300 men, who is following you? We look at the situation around us, and a lot of times we're going through stuff and you're not going through it alone. People are watching you. People are looking to you for encouragement. People are looking around you and saying, how are you going to handle it? And are you building up the kind of life and reputation and saying, you know what, it's not just about me in this situation. I'm going to handle this situation, this circumstance with integrity because I know people are watching. I know that my decisions and my actions and my attitudes are going to have an influence on the people around me. And also not even affect where I end up in life, but affect those people and where they're going to end up in the paths they follow. People are going to follow my example. So we're imitators. We're all imitating something. We're all imitating someone. And we're all being imitated. And so in our lives, we're called to lead and we're called to follow. So who are you imitating? And Gideon, with confidence, says to the men God gave him, he says, follow me, follow my example. But then he also comes and he gives the men empty jars. In verse 16, it says, dividing the 300 men into 3 companies, he placed trumpets and empty jars in the hands of all of them, with torches inside. And sometimes when we face a situation, the world says, fake it till you make it, doesn't it? It says, never let them see you sweat. Make sure you gotta be strong. You gotta pretend like you're strong. Even if you got nothing, act like it's all there. But Gideon says, what does he do? He gives empty jars. And there's something in coming to a situation with a little bit of emptiness, a little bit of humility. And we need to come empty and say sometimes, and when we're facing people around us, rather than trying to bully our way through a situation, come and just humbly admit, hey, I don't have all the answers. Hey, I don't have life figured out. And we can soften the situation around us when we have that humility. When instead of trying to fight everything to say, I'm going to come and reveal my emptiness. I'm going to come empty. When you're looking for the people to pour into your life, you need to come with an emptiness. When you want to have the answers, you got to come and say, listen, I don't have all the answers, but I'm empty and I'm willing to learn. And in our life, when we look to people and say, listen, I'm empty and we're willing to learn, we can gain so much. We can gain so much. When we come to God and say, God, I'm empty, I need you, God has promised to fill us up. In fact, in Psalm 81:10, it says, I am the Lord your God who brought you up out of Egypt. Open wide your mouth and I will fill it. Sometimes we open our mouth before we have anything to say, and we don't open our mouth to receive. We don't open our mouth, but we open our mouth to try to pretend like we have it all. And God says, give yourself to me empty, and I will give you something to say. Psalm 103:5 says, he fills my life with good things. My youth is renewed like the eagles. And a lot of times when we are willing to come to a situation and admit our emptiness, admit that we don't have it all figured out, that's when we put ourselves in a position, in a right posture to be filled up. But when we come into a situation and we try to pretend like we know what we're doing, we try to pretend like we're stronger than we are, we end up hitting a brick wall. And sometimes it's about coming to the situation with a humility and an emptiness. But then Gideon goes on and he says the command is we need to, at the right time, allow the jars to be broken. And in verse 19 it says, Gideon and the 100 men with him reached the edge of the camp at the beginning of the middle watch. And just after they changed their guard, they blew their trumpets and broke the jars that were in their hands. And sometimes we need to allow ourselves to be broken. Allow ourselves to let every idea that we had thought we knew, every confidence that we had, to just say it's broken. And when we allow ourselves to be broken, that's when something that's inside of us that we didn't even know was there comes out. Gideon gave the warriors, the 300 men, he gave them empty jars with torches inside. And when those jars were broken, when the jars were smashed, then the light that was within was able to shine. And a lot of times we never even know what we have inside until we allow that surrounding, that covering that we show everyone, to be broken. It's usually in the most challenging moments in our lives when we finally admit, hey, I'm broken, and we're allowing ourselves to be broken, and we allow our brokenness to be revealed, that we see a greater strength in us than we ever knew we had. But if we keep trying to pretend like we're not empty, we keep trying to pretend like we have it all together, we keep trying to be strong enough, we never see that treasure that is inside of us. In 2 Corinthians 4:7, it says this, but we have these treasure in jars of clay to show that this all-surpassing power is from God and not from us. And God has put something in you, in your life, in your heart, in your soul, that is so powerful. And most of us never get to even see that. Never even get to see God reveal the amazing qualities put in us because we're too busy covering ourselves up, protecting ourselves from the situations. But when we allow ourselves to be broken and we allow ourselves to experience broken in life, that's usually when we find a strength we never even knew was there. We have to be willing in situations to allow brokenness to enter our lives. And then God will reveal that wonderful treasure that He put inside you. Yes, in you. God has put something great in you, powerful in you, strengthening in you. If you allow yourself to be broken, so that was put there by God, that's within you, can come to the surface, can be revealed. And Gideon said, allow your jars to be broken. We are just treasures in jars of clay, and our whole world seems to be fixated on the external. You got to put on the smile. You got to have it all together. You got to buy more than you can afford, so you put up a show. You got to put on a mask. You got to act out and make everyone think that your life is perfect, and you got to put on the show. But when you allow that show, that external, those physical things that don't really matter, to be broken, to let them go and say, you know what, that's not important, and focus on what's on the inside, and let the inside come to the surface, that's when you're going to see great things happen. But that's also in that scary part that we all face, that what's on the inside is revealed. And these warriors, they had something on the inside that wasn't just an emptiness. There was a light on the inside. And they had their torches on the inside. And in verse 20 it says, the three companies blew their trumpets, they smashed the jars, grasping the torches in their left hands and holding in their right hands the trumpets they were about to blow. And they had these torches, and all of a sudden the light came forth in the darkness, in the middle of the night, when they allowed their brokenness to finally smash, when they allowed the external things that were covering everything up and trying to portray strength, allowed it to smash and be crumbled. That's when the light within them was revealed and lit up the darkness. Jesus said, the eye is the lamp of the body, in Matthew 6:22. And He says, if your eye is good, your whole body will be full of light. But if your eye is dark, your whole body will be full of darkness. And if the light that is within you is darkness, how deep is that darkness? And we need to realize that sometimes the way we look at things, we got to look at things with a light in our eyes. We were created in God's image, in His likeness, and we were created to look at the world the way God does. Do you look at your situation, your circumstance the way God does? Sometimes we're so busy looking down, we're so busy looking at all the difficulties, we never allow God's light into our lives, to look at life and at circumstance with possibilities, with hope, with joy, and with faith. Because, everyone who has succeeded, everyone who has overcome, has been able to look at their situation and bring it to light. Bring to light the possibility of overcoming. Bring to light, there's a risk, but there's also a great reward at the end of that risk. That there is a light at the end of that tunnel. That there is hope. That this story isn't over. Everyone who has pursued and overcome and faced the challenges of life and succeeded has had that light within them. That say, I'm going to look at the possibilities. I know that there's difficulties. I know that there's challenges, but I choose to look with light, with hope. That this can't be all there is. And we need to have that light within us. Because if you don't have that, then you're just going to roll over and die. You're going to roll over and give up. But you need that light to fan into flame that light within you, to fan into flame that hope. Sometimes we need to do like King David did when at his lowest point it says he encouraged himself in the Lord. And we need to encourage ourselves. We need to look to other people and say, somebody else succeeded when the world was against them. Gideon defeated an army of millions with 300 men. Why can't I? Why can't you overcome? Yes, the odds may be against you, but if somebody else overcame, if somebody else succeeded, why not you? You got to have that light within you. And if that light within you is good, if your eye is good and you can see the light, you can see the possibilities in God and have that faith and hope, there's nothing that you can't overcome. You may get knocked down, but you will get back up again. You may stumble, but God will pick you back up if you have that light within you, if you have a hope within you, if you have a faith within you. What gets people to succeed and overcome against the odds is they're able to look at the situation with light, with hope, and with faith. But also in verse 19, it says that Gideon and the 100 men with him, they reached the edge of the camp in the beginning of the middle watch, just after the guard had changed. And there's something in timing. And that's something we all struggle with, waiting for the perfect timing. Sometimes it's having that patience. I think so often we talk about everything happens in God's timing, but we have that knack that we never want to wait for God's timing. We never want to sit and ask, when is the perfect time to do this? And in Gideon's battle, there was a perfect time. There was a timing that was involved. There was a system that he went through. There was a process. There was things he had to do. But sometimes it's doing those things in the right order, at the right time. Very often we want to see big things happen in our lives and we want to see the big payoff, but we don't want to work on our integrity. We don't want to work on our character. We don't want to build ourselves up and get the education and gain the experience and go through the process of doing the little things over and over again that build up to that timing. We just want to have the big payoff right away. But things happen in a order, in a strategic order. And no matter what you're going through in life, there's a process you got to go through and wait on the right timing. And almost every time people say, oh, look at that person, they just succeeded so much. And I love that saying that I heard recently. It says, work yourself like a dog for 10 years and you can become an overnight success. Work hard and build that integrity, build that reputation, build that platform, whatever it is you're working on, build that relationship. And then you'll experience a victory, then you will overcome. But it has to happen in the proper order and in the proper timing. Gideon was able to overcome the battle because he hit the enemy in the proper timing, at just the right moment. And God likes to show up in our lives at just the right moment, if we will wait patiently. In Lamentations, it says, it is good to wait quietly for the salvation of the Lord. And sometimes when we're trying to overcome the odds, we can lose out when we give up too soon. It's always darkest right before the dawn. And you need to wait on God's timing. Wait on the timing for the situation you're in. And don't give up, because your victory, your overcoming might be right around the corner. And in verse 21 it says, while each man held his position around the camp, all the Midianites ran, crying out as they fled. And sometimes it's just simply about holding your position. And waiting for that timing is just standing firm. Ephesians talks about the armor of God, and it says, you need to stand firm in the Lord. And when you've done all that you can do, continue to stand firm. Stand firm. James 4:7 says, submit yourself to God, resist the devil, and he will flee you. Resist the temptation to quit. Resist the temptation to cut corners. Resist the temptation to kind of let go of your integrity. Submit yourselves to God and resist the devil, and he will have to flee you. So often we are tempted, all of us, to, instead of resisting the enemy of our souls, we submit to the world. We submit to the culture. We submit to the things that we know aren't right. And we resist God. We resist the amazing victory God wants to give in our lives. So Gideon's army, when in the midst of it, when all of a sudden the Midianites were all getting up, had the opportunity, I'm sure, when they see the enemy rising up, and all of a sudden all the men are running out of their tents. It had to be scary. But the men, those warriors, they stood their ground. They stood firm. And they resisted the temptation to run away. They resisted the temptation to hide. And they stood their ground as the Midianite army started fighting against itself. And they just watched God do great things in their situation. And we need to have that resolve in the midst of when the odds are against us to stand firm in what we believe, to stand firm in our convictions, to stand firm in our hopes and our dreams and our visions and our goals, and continue the tough path, the tough things that need to get done. And sometimes the toughest thing to do is to stand firm and wait. Wait on God. Wait for the chips to fall. Wait for things to happen. I'm not a gambler, but you know, sometimes you gotta have to, when you got that hand, you gotta not fold, but stick it out to the end. Some of the biggest breaks, some of the biggest jackpots have come to the people who would just hold their ground and stand firm and not fold before the game was over. Let the chips fall where they are, but stand firm and be willing to resist. Resist. And so, whatever situation you're facing, when you feel like the odds are against you, remember who you are. Who are you following? Find someone to imitate. Find someone to lean on. Be willing to empty yourself to be filled up. Make sure that that light within you is good, that you see the situation as it really is, and not just give in to fear. And you wait for the perfect timing, and then you stand your ground. And you too, just like Gideon, will be able to overcome against all odds. I hope this message has encouraged you. I thank you for joining me again this week. And until next time, remember, Jesus loves you, and so do I.